to us about how #Spekkies came about, and starting from the Jobs for Carbon program and becoming the project that #Spekkies is today?
Well, the #Spekkies project started with, we start to think about how can we have a commercial site running with the Jobs for Carbon project, and then how we can use the offcuts that coming from the cuttings. When we prepare the cuttings for the Jobs for Carbon project, we clean up the lower part of the 50 centimeters of the cuttings to plant it. So the lowest 20 centimeters had a lot of offcuts, and then we decided that we must start to do something with that offcuts, and then we think that we can start a commercial site by creating a nursery, and then took the offcuts, put it in pots, and then put it in a nursery, and then later on we can start to sell it to make either the Jobs for Carbon process a long-term process, so that we have funding to pay people to do certain jobs while the Jobs for Carbon process doesn't create work for the guys. This was the one idea. The other idea was if we can build it out to become a big enough project that can create enough funds, it can be a funder or a co-funder for the Gcbr. So that was the idea, and then to get a commercial company running or a profit company running, so that we can use that money to fund the Gcbr. So that was the other idea, and that is how we started. And then we start the nursery, and then later on we come up with the idea to use composts which we planted in, and the composts then you can plant in your garden, and then it with time it breaks down in the soil, and then
the pot can be planted straight in the ground.
Yeah, pot can be planted straight in the ground. So that was the idea.
Is hierdie so mooi so?
Ja.
Hoe oud dink jy is dit?
3.000-4.000 jaar. Dis nie vandag se kindie. Okay, so if you look at this is cuttings planted about they was planted in May, June of 2015, and so these cuttings was planted then. The way we plant it is we cut it at about a height of a length of 50 centimeters, and then, as I explained, we cleaned the lower 20 centimeters, and then we make a hole of 20 centimeters. And then what is important, then we plant it in that hole of 20 centimeters. But as you will see with all these plants that is around us, all of them at a little dam, and this is where we take longer to do the planting. But what is important now, as you can see quite here also, the dam take some water and hold the water. And if you look here, the dams is still, after this little bit of rain that we have now, the dams is still wet. The soil is wet in the inside of the dam. If you look around it, like here, it is dry. If you look here, it is quite wet still, because this dam keep the water for the longest time. It doesn't run off. And actually, this is where our project differ a lot from other projects. Most of the other projects, they only make a hole in the soil, and then they put in the plant, and they gave it 1 liter of water. We also gave the 1 liter of water, but we make a proper dam around it so that it can keep water longer. And so it takes us longer to do the planting, but at the end of the day, our mortality is much lower than other projects. We are thinking at this stage of our mortality, and we have a severe drought now. We are thinking about 30% mortality on most of the planting sites. Some of them are better, some of them are a little bit worse, Actually, we can't judge it now because of the drought. But if you look at all these plants here, they look wealthy or healthy. They look smart, and they are starting. So the question can arise: why the spekboom? And the spekboom, like this one that we are standing here, this is quite an old one. It's one of it's this plant that takes the second most carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and give us oxygen, and then they store it in the leaves and in the roots and in the trunk and everywhere, and they better our soil, and so this was the reason why we focus on the spekboom for the Jobs for Carbon project, and then also focus on that plant for the #SPEKKIES project, because it is a good purpose. It is planted for a good reason.